There's been a significant announcement this morning from the Irish Revenue Commissioners in relation to the subsidy scheme. And I just want to pass over to John here to explain what this morning's announcement is and what it means.
Yeah, so thanks, Des. So I suppose effectively, as you say, great news. So up to now, in order to be on the subsidy scheme, effectively, you had to have the people on the payroll on the 29th of February, and the payroll submission had to be in revenue on the 15th of March of that 2020. So effectively, it meant that for people, and you'll discuss it probably yourself, we had so many things where there was exceptional cases why it was late, it was constantly refused, they weren't allowed into the subsidy scheme. So as a result of the change here now, they're effectively saying by their own care and management provisions revenue are saying where the person is on the payroll on the 29th of February, and if the payroll submission is submitted before the 1st of April 2020, they will allow, assuming all the other conditions are met, they will allow them into the subsidy scheme in relation to that. And the other requirement is the payroll submissions for all the previous months before February. So the February payroll submission must be in by at least before the 1st of April. Any payroll submission before February, they must be submitted before the 15th of March 2020. If that is done and all other conditions are met, they're allowing them into the scheme. You should ensure that you put the eligible employee as set as J9 going forward. They haven't, obviously it's a statement, so they haven't said, well, what happens for the past? Are they going to allow you to claim it for, for those employees? If you put a J9 on it, I would hope so, but that's still to be confirmed.
Like it almost seems like years ago, not weeks ago, the 13th of March, as this was coming, that I started contacting politicians to say that there needs to be a response here, it needs to be urgent, and it needs to be significant. When we saw the COVID Act, we were gravely concerned because even reading the legislation as presented, there was glaring holes. Now, at that stage, there was glaring holes, but quick legislation to get a quick result, we kind of worked on the basis, okay, well, they'll fill in the holes afterwards. Maybe they'll amend the legislation, or maybe there'll be slightly different guidance. But then we saw the first guidance, and we were absolutely dismayed. Now, we saw the first guidance, but again, we kind of trusted the system. And we trusted the system in that, okay, this can't be left like this. There's going to be more improved guidance. And there was more guidance. There's been guidance issued now 7 times. And we just hope that common sense would prevail. We just hope that somebody would intervene and say, no, what's happening here in terms of the interpretation is wrong. This is unworkable. This is creating huge stress for business owners in the first instance and accountants in the second instance. And we kept on hoping that something would happen. And as the 25th of April loomed, we were getting more and more concerned. When was the intervention coming? When was common sense going to prevail? Who was going to step in here and solve the problems? The revenue announcement today is a huge win. It's like, if you look at the whole coronavirus crisis, it's like, this is something to smile about. This is a huge win. But we heard the stories coming in from the frontline accountants, the horror stories of interpretations being made, applications being declined, returns not submitted for very, very legitimate reasons. People who were sick, people who were flooded, people who this wasn't an intentional default. The accountants of Ireland have done this. The accountants of Ireland have done this. And the businesses and the jobs that have saved, yes, we're still in the eye of a crisis, but if this change wasn't made, what would the impact have been? Employers who we've spoken to over the last 2-3 weeks, who are going, we missed the deadline by 1 day. Now we're excluded. What are we going to tell our team members? We're going to be sending people home. We're going to be liquidating our business. We're going to be destroying if we can't get this subsidy scheme. I just want to start by saying thank you to the accountants. The momentum started building on this 2 weeks ago, and accountants were bringing us in the stories. And our approach was, well, like, I presume this is going to be sorted out. I presume somebody's going to step in here and get this sorted. But the accountants who went direct to their politicians, who lobbied, the accountants who fought on behalf of their clients to get this situation rectified. There's far too many of you to mention, but you all know who you are. The consistent and persistent lobbying direct to politicians, the accountants who went direct. Thank you. To the politicians who listened to the accountants, thank you. To the politicians who made a difference, thank you. And to those poor politicians that I've been harassing since the 13th of March, definitely thank you to you. John, who's with me here, has worked around the clock on this for 6 weeks. And he's shown a level of leadership in giving advice and guidance when other people were afraid to put their hand up. And I understand the legislation was flawed, the revenue guidance was flawed, and John got totally out of his comfort zone, applied his expertise in a way that has helped so many. Now, one thing that you don't know about John is supposed to be on paternity leave at the moment. John's supposed to be on paternity. John and his wife Caroline are expecting their second baby imminently. Instead of being off on paternity leave preparing for the new arrival, the last 2 weeks John has probably worked in excess of 120 hours. So thank you, John. And I suppose it's not just John. You're seeing Colin and Mike are on here, they're on the webinars, and they're in the background. Yeah, it's Michal. Everybody knows that the Michal plays a fundamental part in everything that happens. But there's also some unsung heroes in OmniPro that we need to talk about. The likes of Yvonne, who's fielding so many questions, literally thousands of questions in the last few weeks, helping John, supported by Sinead, Jessica, and Laura. We've got Marion, Fiona, Jamie, Anne-Marie, Rachel, and a special mention for our marketing team. Jonathan and Elizabeth, what you've done, you've contributed to this victory. And I suppose I better not forget my poor wife, Caroline, who not only has she had to live with me through all of this, she lives with me, she looks after our kids, and she runs our business and manages our team. So there's not many wins in a crisis like this, but this is one. Thank you.